Alrighty, quite a few updates to show off. I've been a bit behind in terms of demonstrating these, so hopefully I'll capture all the changes that I've thrown into what I was working on last week here. So let's hop on in. So pretty much most of the last week I was working on this kind of level setup. So this is basically a maze, but in order to kind of incorporate some of the new skeleton mechanics, I worked on a couple of features in this maze. So let's have a little tour, and let me just make sure OBS is looking good this time. I think so. I'll just reduce this maybe a little more. So the first thing is these collapsible corridors. So I wanted to kind of design something so that when the players are kind of moving through the maze, they can interact with the environment in a way that maybe affects them and also perhaps the enemies that might be pursuing them in this skeleton game. So this first idea is a collapsible corridor, and what this does is it basically allows this to come down and rain boulders on the players. So let me move both my players over here so that we can still access the next level, which is this gap. Because the one thing I haven't done is made a good way to get rid of this, or think about how players might get around this obstacle if it's invoked. So, to activate it, simply toss the button. Voila. Very loud, very menacing, but yeah. So, pretty cool feature. I think that this could be a good way to like attack an enemy and then like cause them to like delay and buy you a little bit more time, or even to, you know, troll your friends. Or an alternative is what this next setup is here, which is in the form of traversal. So kind of a little small puzzle, but one of the abilities that was implemented in the previous sprint was the ability to throw a player. So we pick the player up, we find a good angle, and we can, since we can't normally jump up here with our normal height, instead we have to collaborate and throw the team member up. It's a little tricky to get first time, but there we go. That'll work. And as you can see, our main player is up here on top. So the idea here is that we can collaborate and toss our buddy some bones while they're up there. So just gonna toss a few. Tossing is a little tricky. One of the things I have to work a little bit on is the throwing power. So right now, kind of jumping and throwing it is the best option, or they can kind of like grab it in the air. Let me see if I can time it real quick. Toss. Oh, that one came up anyways. Seems like I found the sweet spot. Okay, maybe not. Alright, one more. Toss. And I missed it. But you get the idea. So, given this idea of collaboration, once you get up here, the player up here can now use the environment. Let's just collect some bones, move out of the way so we don't get crushed. And the other player who's elevated can now reach this boulder spot and generate a different type of boulder, which is one that is not as chaotic but can actually be traversed. So using this, you can jump, kind of get some leverage, and boom, we're up. So bone management is kind of, I think, an interesting thing to think about designing with this type of traversal. Still early in the design process, but just some ideas to kind of visualize here. We'll get to this later, but the next and kind of last key element with this maze, that in terms of interactable bone settings, is the collapsible floors. Yeah. So with these different levels, kind of threw in some traps, basically, such that when the player walks over them and has a certain number of bones, it'll trigger. So had some code in place to do this randomly based on, some number of bones that it can support. Right now I think it's just hard coded to 2, but I was thinking about like, oh, maybe this floor is a little more secure and it could support up to 4 bones, whereas ones that are more unstable will collapse as soon as you touch it. Oh, that's my favorite part of this tutorial is running into these traps by accident. I forgot that I increased the interval and made it so that 2 traps spawn per level. So, one thing that is interesting here is that I also worked on a little bit of the maze generator, such that the maze actually gets larger each time. Alright, probably couldn't hear me over that. But I worked on this maze generator so that the maze actually gets larger each time you climb a floor. So I think it starts at 3x3, and then it goes to 4x4, and I think this is probably a 5x5 maze. So, really cool to work on. Really cool to work on. And I think there is some potential there for like, oh, the higher you get in this maze, the more maze-like it becomes and confusing for players. Just an interesting idea. Is it gonna be fun? Is it not? I don't know, but just I thought it was cool. Just kind of working these mazes and stacking them in such a way that the higher you get, the more complex it gets. You can kind of see how this looks from the scene view here. It's a little complicated, but here you will find the maze. I'll turn these off right now. And each time the player elevates themselves to the next level, a new level or layer of this maze gets generated. So the maze is always, I think, about maybe 2 levels above the player's current level that it generates, so that it always kind of, has a layout fixed so that by the time the players reach it, everything is in place. So pretty bare bones right now, but I think a lot of cool like foundational stuff here. So I wonder if I can demonstrate from this other player's screen. If I jump up, let's see if we can see the live dynamic maze generation in action. So I'm going to look for the gap in the ceiling that I can use to traverse. And once I have found it, I will ascend and boom, new level gets generated. Oh, and plenty of traps to go around. Again, boom, next level gets generated. So pretty cool stuff. The last thing that I worked a little bit on is the enemy, the kraken. So these spots in the wall actually indicate kraken spawns. So wanted to make it a little bit more, I guess, predictable so that they're not just kind of spawning randomly like the first kind of kraken demo. So I'll come here and basically, oh no. Oh, I think fall damage would be a cool thing to add as well. But anywho, I'll come here, and right now I have them on off so that they don't like auto spawn and mess up the demo. But if I come here and I turn on the level 1 spawner, so let's go ahead and turn this to our level 1, and let's make the auto spawn tentacles on, and then we'll do the same thing for level 1, auto spawn tentacles on. So now we'll see that on those levels, as soon as I get down to them, okay, it's on a bit of a delay. Maybe I'll reduce this for a second, just so that the players have time to get their bearings. Oh, there it is. Oh my god. Kind of startled me a little bit, but yeah, so right now it's about a 20-second spawn timer, right? So every 20 seconds this will spawn. It'll give 20 seconds of players a 20-second delay from getting on the level to spawn so that they have time to get their bearings with the floor. And then at that point it's like, okay, you kind of have to move quickly and progress or you're gonna get collapsed. So basically when the tentacle hits you right now, all it does is just damage you. So it just takes away all your bones and I think there's an issue with bones going through the wall, so that's an issue to fix for another day. But yeah. The kraken tentacles get a little bit more aggressive as you ascend the floors, and by that its speed increases. And what else? Yeah, I think it's mostly just a speed increase basically. So this is one cool way you can kind of avoid him, and he'll kind of just patrol this last spot like, where did he go? It would be interesting if it could like kind of go between the floors through these holes and stuff, but that might be a little complex. Alright, let's see the level 2 krakens. So right now it's configured to spawn, I think, 2 krakens per, or increase the number of krakens, maybe 1 additional kraken every floor, or 1 additional kraken tentacle every 2 floors, something like that. So let's see if we can see the 2 on this floor. Alrighty, so just a bit of a top view here. So we're on level 3 right now with our client player, and we can see the krakens spawn in a couple moments. Let's see if oh my god. Let's see if they are, oh, well, not go that way. Alright, so you can kind of see that similar functionality here to what was shown in that first kraken demo. Okay, I kind of see where the, oh no, now that one below is hunting me where I was. Let's see if we can see it from below. Not quite. Okay, let's try to get to that safe spot over here. Avoid all these gaps. And let's see. So this is just to demonstrate the kraken's positioning again. I think I have trouble with my own maze, so you can see kind of the behavior of the kraken there. Cool. And yeah, that's about it, I think. Yeah, interesting thing about the kraken as well is there's some logic in terms of how it decides its target. So it's not only based on who it can reach and who's the closest, but also who has the most bones. So it'll try to prioritize those players with many bones and not so much look at the ones who don't have a lot of bones to offer it. Alrighty.